हेलो सत श्री अकाल नमस्ते आदाब दोस्तों मैं हूँ शेरन अली एंड you're watching हनीवालिया शोज। आज की सेगमेंट ऑफ थ्रू द आईज ऑफ अ वुमन एक औरत के नज़रों से we have a very special guest with us, Ruby Malik. Ruby has lived in Canada over 30 years, is currently employed with the Government of Canada for more than 15 years, has 3 beautiful daughters, a husband, a career, and owns a farm. So we'll be speaking to Ruby today on how she plays these roles, being a mom, career woman, and having a farm. Ruby, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thanks, Sharon, for having me on the show. It's a great honor.
So, Ruby, you work for the Government of Canada. You've been there over 15 years. You've been in Canada for over 30 years, like I've said. Did you have any setbacks being a woman coming into Canada? Did you have any bad experiences trying to achieve your goals or experiences? Or
Definitely, as a newcomer, we all have lots of hurdles to go over, and we face a lot of obstacles in getting into the mainstream. And being a woman, I think we have added barriers because of all the different roles we are playing in our lives, and as well as the culture shock we are dealing with, because being from a very conservative Eastern culture, adjusting to it being a woman was difficult, definitely, and lots of things needed to be addressed.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, being a woman in this culture today, even though there's so many empowering women out there, there's still that stereotype about women, right? To be in the kitchen, to be at home, and it's great that we have women entrepreneurs out there that are willing to share and go for their goals and relive with their passions.
Exactly. So we do have different gender roles still assigned to us, and caregiving comes into place. So if we are career women back in the country of origin and we are moving to Canada, getting back into that career is extra hard because we are juggling so many things.
Right. So you are from Pakistan.
Right.
So did you have a career in Pakistan before you were married, or did that all start up when you came to Canada? Or
no, I got married right after I did my bachelor's degree in Pakistan in biology.
Okay.
So I was aspiring to be a doctor back there, but since my husband was an international student already doing his engineering, so one of us had to postpone the dreams a little bit longer. So I started working right away, and then he completed his engineering, and after that, when he was in his career, I went back to university again and did my degrees here again, and then started with the public service in Canadian government after that.
Perfect. How did you feel about you having to set back your goals, to push it aside for your husband? Were you
I think that's usually what happens with most of the women sometimes, but for us it was obvious because he was already in the middle of engineering. So he had done 3 years and he had 1 year left, and soon after it made sense since he had the engineering degree from here. Actually he did it in US, so it was better for him to get a job and get his career started, and then I had to do a little bit of sacrifice, and meanwhile we had children and so on, so I waited till the third daughter was born and went to school after that.
Well, that's fabulous. It's so nice that you continue to pursue your goals and do what you wanted to. You went back to university, got your education, and now I have children now, married now. Why am I going to go, and add more stress to my life?
Right.
But it's so wonderful for you to achieve.
It is much harder. It is, I think, being a woman and having a family with young children, you have to have extra energy, and you have to have time management skills, and also the financial resources. It's more tempting to be working and earning a living rather than juggling it with going to school and so on. So many of us do it, but definitely there's extra energy needed to accomplish that. So.
Yes, we call ourselves super women.
Exactly.
The things we have to juggle with our life and with our careers and that.
Right.
So your husband, are you guys, you were arranged marriage, you said?
Right, yes.
So is it something that you were expecting growing up as a girl, to have an arranged marriage? Were you is that something, I know with the culture in that.
Right, so Pakistan has a variety of different cultural things that are happening. So nowadays, you don't hear so much of arranged marriages, but way back in 1990 when I got married, in our family, being from a conservative background in Punjab, we definitely thought that I definitely knew it would be an arranged marriage. So, and sometimes it's within the family, but my husband is not from the family. family. He's from a different part of Punjab. So our families knew each other. However, it was a completely blind arranged marriage in the sense that we got married and we saw each other after we were married.
Oh, so you didn't see him before you even got married?
No.
Wow.
Yes.
I've got to hand it to you.
It's, I tell my kids too, it's the leap of faith. Like it's like dark well that you jump into and then you're hoping you land on your feet kind of thing. So, but it's worked out. We've been married for over 30 years now.
Wow.
So
That's great.
But it doesn't mean that it hasn't been without all the things that happen, ups and downs in a marriage.
Absolutely.
And we being very different people definitely makes it interesting in that sense.
Okay, so when you say different, do you mean in personality or in what you think is morally right, or in your, with society, with Canadian society, Pakistani society?
I think personalities.
Okay.
I am an extrovert and he's an introvert, so that makes it interesting. The hobbies that I have are very different. I love music and dancing and he definitely doesn't.
Okay.
So, he has been in sciences, and so he would rather sit in his library reading books about physics than go to a mushaira or a musical concert. I would rather go. So those are the differences. However, in thinking too, the school of thought, I tend to land on very progressive values sometimes, and he brings in the conservative element of it. So he's more religiously, being a Muslim, more religiously attached to the values. So it's been interesting because he came from a background where for most of the men it's always that if they say so it goes, and I always challenged it. So that's what made it interesting, that I always wanted to discuss and have a debate about it, and not just take it because you said so or it's written somewhere. Like we need to explain so I can own the value and then I can implement it, rather than just because somebody who's more authoritative tells me to do so. So that's what I try to instill in my kids too. As you mentioned in my introduction, I have 3 young women as daughters. They are all at university level, so they are grown young women.
Wonderful.
And the things we wanted to instill as parents, being coming from different schools of thought, was to have those core principles right in them, so that wherever they go, they have a good head on their shoulders to think things through and know why we are doing something and why we are not doing something, rather than blindly just following because it's faith, because it's culture. I would rather own the thing by knowing deeply about it and then have those core values, and with that go and explore and have the maximum potential we have to implement things that we want to do. So it's a different dynamic. So I will give you an example about wearing Western clothes that I could maybe, like my friends are wearing, and I started to going to university and afterwards for work, and then it was like Faz, my husband, said yes, definitely you could, but we know I have values of wearing certain style of clothing in Western too and not otherwise. However, he's like, okay, everything you can wear, but jeans nahi pehnogi. And I was like, what did the jeans do wrong?
What is the problem with jeans, viewers? I don't understand.
Exactly.
As soon as a man hears, from back home jeans, it's like, oh my God, forbidden clothing.
So I was like, why? Like it's a denim fabric, it's different, and it's the same kind of pants that you would wear otherwise. And I think it was more of the notion and the taboo attached to it back then. So those were the discussions. When we discussed that, no, it's just another piece of clothing. That's it's nothing that you need to be deriving negativity from, and so on. So it's interesting. And even the small things like that, we try to discuss and then go about it as we see a mutual ground to agree on.
So I think that's great, though. So when you discuss these things, these objections that he has for what you want to do, vice versa, he's always willing to talk about it with you. He's not, no, this is how it's going to be, and that's how it is.
In the beginning, it was like, why do we have to discuss? And because that wasn't the norm, I think, for him growing up, or for me too. But then he's become more used to it, and I think it's interesting because he can see a different perspective, and I can definitely see a different perspective on it too. And I tell my children that having 2 very different parents, one who's outgoing and loud and out there, and the other one who's very conservative and wants more reserved in his house, it's good because then they get the best of both worlds. So they have the conservative religious teachings and and all those things coming from the dad, and then we discuss them mutually, and then they also have the confidence from us, from my side, to go out and explore and enjoy music and travel. And doing international travel for our girls while they were in their teens wasn't something that Faz would have allowed, so to say, as he was in the beginning, but that's what the girls have done, and they've proven that there's no harm if you are doing it right in a safe manner.
And I think it's great that they've got both cultures instilled in them, Western culture and their culture as well. So, and that's very important too, because growing up they'll have both, best of both worlds, right? They'll have the religious part or conservative part, which is very nice. So you do have 3 beautiful girls,
right?
What is their opinion? Are they more drawn towards, is there one of them that's more drawn towards their father, more reserved, laid back, or are more like you, or is it in between kind of thing? Or
I think they are all in between. They are very different between the 3 kids too. It sometimes surprises me that having the same parents and the same home environment, how different they turn out to be. It's more personalities. So I think they are different. All 3 love sciences. My husband and I both have science background and stuff. So I think that's a shared thing that they're carrying on with even the advanced studies. They're doing masters and stuff in research and so on. So it's interesting. And personality wise, I think they all lie somewhere in between. I'm not a great cook. I actually do cooking on necessity basis. My husband's a great cook and he loves to cook and stuff. So that works out great. But 2 of my daughters are baker, they love baking and cooking and stuff. And Miss, the middle one, would rather do outdoor stuff and other spend time on cars or animals and stuff. So it's an interesting combination of how they've picked up different traits and personalities from both parents.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So with all these differences between you and your husband, did it cause a lot of, I guess, arguments, a lot of bad experiences within the household with your children? Were they kind of confused at some point? Do we listen to dad? Do we listen to mom? It's
right. So the right to disagree, but doing it in not disrespecting the other person, that's one of the rules that we had, kind of. And it's not easy always. Like, you don't think of rules when you're angry, right? So sometimes they are thrown out the window. But the thing has been that we have come to some sort of mutual consent on some things, somewhere in between, because it's all about compromise and what's right. Like, we don't want to violate the basic religious foundational principles. Definitely both of us have that solid. So that, I think, builds the foundation and drives us to kind of find a compromise down the road. So the girls sometimes are debating, why this and why not, but I think it makes for a healthy environment, because we want them to be fluid in both cultures too. They visited Pakistan with me. Most of the family is still back there, so when they go there, they can speak the language, they attend functions, they know the customs and cultural differences that are subtle and sometimes not so subtle back there. However, they are very well adjusted in the Western society. So we wanted to, and definitely there's disagreements and arguments in any household, in any family, and with teenagers when you're setting the boundaries and we are like, my friends can do this, why can't I, and stuff. So definitely that's been part of raising 3 children here in North America, and any household would have that, and I think we've had our share of that. But the positive that comes out of it is that we are able to manage it at the end of it, that it's not going to draw any cracks in the relationships or overall negative things for kids as they are growing up and taking negativity as when they grow up to make decisions on their own.
And I think it's so great with your husband too, that he's so open to having these discussions with you and looking at your point of view for the discussions of what you believe is right or what you believe is okay to do, because I know, and our viewers can probably relate too, that there's so many women out there that are in the same boat, but they're not allowed to question, or able, I should say, to question their husbands like this, to say, listen, can we sit down and talk about this? Can you listen to my point of view, my feelings, my point of view, actually, they matter as well. So, ladies, discuss it with your husbands. Try, you've got to do that. You're a woman too. You've got views too. You've got passions too. It's something that you just can't sit back and say, this is what you're going to do. This is how it's going to be. That's it.
Definitely, Sharon. I think I've been very fortunate in having that support and open-mindedness from my husband. But as you're suggesting for the viewers too, I think it's I have always started these conversations way back with him, saying that I have no intention of disrespecting what you're saying or your views. Like, you hold them close to your heart, and I respect respect that, but for me to understand as a person who doesn't get this right as you are saying it, I want to dig deeper into it, and I would ask naive and questions that might seem stupid to you, but bear with me, because if I learn, that's part of what the relationship growth is too, that I need to want to learn what your ideology is and what mine is, and I might not be the right one, but still having that, putting it out there, that look at it from a different angle, and if it's wrong, then let it be, but let's have the courage to at least bring it out.
Absolutely. And then it also shows that both your opinions matter, you know, and you both have, as husband and wife, you both have the right to express your opinions, your feelings, what you feel, right? It's just not the one-way game. That's great. I'm so glad that he's open that way. It really makes a difference. And with your teenagers too, they see all this too, right? They say what a child sees at home is kind of what they become, right?
Exactly, when they are making decisions down the line in their life. And I think my husband is very supportive of having women thrive in what they were wanting to do. It's just that there's sometimes fear of losing, because I've seen that word come up in our conversation sometimes, that as an immigrant, first generation immigrant to a Western culture, I think as parents we hold that fear inside us that we lose the next generation, that it'll all go towards. So I think that's why we have been engaged parents in that sense, that we are wanting to give them the Eastern values, so to say, so they can have the best of both worlds and then carry on with that, and not have that fear of losing the language or the cultural aspects and the roots that we have. So it's great. My suggestion for anybody who's listening and watching, it would be also to from the childhood, when you are in the family raising kids, to have values that you're holding close to, come out and explain to your kids, and traditional things and cultural things, especially being in a different culture from where we were born and raised, to have those instilled right from the start, so the children start to own those as well.
And I think culture is very important too. That's the roots of who we are, right?
Exactly.
It's important to instill that in our children.
So that's why you might have seen me a lot of times at functions in Pakistan Canada Association of Edmonton. I've been in past years active part of it, and as my kids were growing up, that was one of the reasons for me being involved in that, was to have them celebrate the Pakistan Day, the cultural things, whenever things come up, otherwise language wise and so on. So they were with other kids doing the same thing. So it's become over time, when they are now going into their professional lives and so on, they would still know and practice it, and down the line when they are independently living, hopefully some parts of it, cultural things and roots, will always stay with them.
Absolutely. I think you guys did a fabulous job. I've seen your daughters, they're doing so well, university, beautiful girls, so you guys have done really well with them, really well.
Thank you.
So you own a farm as well. Not only all this, you own a farm as well. So what kind of animals do you have on your farm? Do you have a lot of animals? Do you have horses? Like, tell us about your farm.
So farm comes out of the love for animals that we all have.
Okay.
So even though I work in the city, in downtown here in Jasper Avenue, so and my kids have to drive down to the university, and still it's very far for us. But we are just outside the city. The reason for owning the farm was to have animals, and especially the horses. So we have had horses all throughout this. We have 2 horses, and we have them for ridings. We use them we raise them from babies, so and they are rideable, so we ride them around the farm and train them new tricks every time. So it's been interesting. And we also have few goats as pets. Sometimes we have more goats, and then when the Qurbani Eid comes, then those are the ones that sometimes friends take from us as well, and so on. But then we have few pet goats that are always there, and we now have added last year llamas as well.
Wow.
So that's an interesting animal to have.
It is.
Yes, so South American origin, and we've never had these before, but it's an interesting animal with lots of wool and different personalities, and it's interesting how one of them had a child, a baby, and then how she's going through the mothering stages and how they have emotions and so on. So all these things are very intriguing for us. And we have dogs and cats, and we have chickens, so we get some eggs. So those are the most expensive eggs I think we get because a lot goes into it. But yeah, it's just a farm environment. All the kids are involved in all the chores as well. And
that's great.
Right.
That's great. I mean, your girls are like they have so much to look forward to. They've got a farm between the two of you, culture, Western, so that it's a variety of things for them. So it's really nice.
It's interesting, definitely. And farm, I think being on a farm as for kids builds a different side of work ethics.
Absolutely.
Taking water to the horses barn when the pipelines are frozen otherwise. That's another dimension of hard work that comes into play.
So where do you get your animals from? Like, where did you get the llamas from and the horses and that?
So horses, there's lots of ranchers around in Alberta, right?
Okay.
So we got them from Pinoca. That's the most of the horses, the ranches are there. So we've had the horses, this set of horses for 6 years now.
Oh, wow.
And then llamas we got from another farmer because we have a farming community that we are connected to on social media.
Okay.
So sometimes we see things that come up. So these llamas, actually the lady who owned had a large farm and she passed away, and the family did not want to keep the llamas because they're high maintenance. So they were wanting to have them go to other houses. So we got mom, dad, and a baby, and then the mom had another baby on our farm as well.
Oh, nice.
So it's a small llama family.
Oh, that must be. I'd have to come by one day to your farm.
Yes, I think summers would.
Too.
Summers are beautiful out there now. It's a little bit hard because it's all white snowed out.
Of course,
But summers are beautiful. We should have a bonfire or something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
So, Ruby, what are your areas of passion within the community?
For doing things and giving back to community, I'm a very strong believer in getting engaged and giving back in many ways. So first of all, my line of work is also aligned with it is gender equality. So gender equality, even back in Pakistan in university, I was part of some organizations as a student leading for gender equity and same rights for opportunities and access to opportunities and so on. But by luck or however you say, I've worked in different departments within the government, but right now I've ended up in Women and Gender Equality Department. That's the Canadian government. So that has given me an opportunity to work in a formal way. However, on the community level also, I want to be doing lots of work. There's still lots of violence against women and girls, unfortunately, in our Canadian society as well. And there's lots of things that need to be done for women leadership and entrepreneurship and women in decision-making roles. So we see that very high-level decision-making tables don't have gender parity or gender equity still. So we need to be working on those, and especially coming from visible minority, being a visible minority woman, you have extra barriers that come into play. So there are organizations that I'm part of, or either on the board of, or just as a volunteer in Edmonton, Alberta, as well as in Canada, that we are working on different aspects of getting more women elected in politics, getting more women entrepreneurs, go from small and medium to larger business entrepreneurship, so they're not stuck with that glass ceiling. And another area for passion for me to work on is ending poverty, because poverty and financial distress affects so many families, and then it deprives people from reaching their maximum potential. And as Canadians, I know we have wealth compared to so many other places in the world, but how that wealth is distributed and how the access is limited is very interesting for me. So I've been part of Make Poverty History. That's a big movement in Canada. So we have done lots of awareness raising, also lots of work with homeless people. At first, when I found out 10 years ago when I moved to Edmonton, because with a government job I've been posted in different places. So I've been in Edmonton since 2008. But 10 years ago, especially in the local chapter of ending poverty, I found out that there were over 5,000 homeless people in Edmonton area, which was shocking to me, because we don't see that kind of news or information because it's not glamorous. And you don't see, you see little evidence of it here and there when you see homeless people, but then what kind of obstacles and society shunning them off, always things that they are facing, it's heartbreaking. So there's lots of local organizations, the Bissell Center, other places who are working very hard that. So I've been trying to work with them. Candora Society in the northeast side of Edmonton, I've been on board for over 5 years. And so different areas of city that need work on that. So reduction of poverty, I think, is one of the main key things that can help people kind of overcome lots of other barriers and then have them maximize their potential in life. So
reduction of poverty, excuse me.
Right.
With that, how do you even, like, I know there's poverty out there, but where do you get the funding from the government to help these people, or do you find places for them to live and stay, or how does that?
So it depends. If a person is homeless, the first thing is to get them stable, right? So to get them a place where they have some stability, they can think things through what has gone wrong in the life that they have ended up there. And then even in acquiring a job, if you are homeless, it's hard because they don't have a permanent address. So simple things like that, having an ID made and having assistance with having the permanent address showing, even though if it's a place that they are staying for next few months, gets them back into, and then working with employers to have some special programs where these kind of people can be hired into some starting off front basic jobs, so they can acquire some experience and then have a living skill that they can have. So prosperity along the line, but first it's more of having them stabilized to the level where they can reintegrate into society. So there are government grants that help with that. There's provincial funding, federal funding, as well as a lot of people privately donate towards these things. Nice. So it's but still there's lots of big gaps. Definitely lots of information needs to be out there for people to know, so more people can get engaged. And it's also giving somebody a chance. Even working poor people who might not be homeless or at that level, but they are renting a place, 2 people are working 2 times, like 2 jobs each of them have, but still they are not able to make ends meet. Why is that? So there are some systematic things or systemic changes that need to be happening. So policy changes and so on. So there's lots that can be done, and it sometimes can be overwhelming to know how much needs to be done. But there needs to be that people who are working, if they are working and 2 people in a household are working, they should be earning enough to make a good living.
Absolutely.
And those are things that we can raise awareness towards. And then awareness leads to action, and action leads to change on a permanent basis. Sometimes the change can be slow, but it's all like sometimes I am asked that how can a one person be, how much difference can you make? And it doesn't matter how much I can make. It's like if each person starts thinking like that and we start a little bit, each one of us, it's like drops make the bucket fill, right? So each of us can be a drop that's added to it.
Absolutely. Ruby, you sounded like a very well-rounded, interesting person with a lot of knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing that with our viewers. But now is our fun segment.
Oh, no.
So I'm going to ask you some interesting fun questions.
Okay.
And so we can learn a little bit more about you personally.
Okay.
So Ruby, what is your most unusual talent, if you have one?
Oh, no. And by the way, I didn't know about the questions, right?
Well, that was our surprise.
Right.
Get
so putting me in the hot seat for sure, definitely. Unusual talent?
Yes.
Oh my.
You have to have an unusual talent.
I'm not sure.
Do you have any type of talent that we don't know about that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Maybe crocheting.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. You learned that by yourself, or?
I learned it over years, and then sometimes when it's a de-stressor, right? So and so crocheting different things at different times. So and also like we de-stress in different ways, right? Absolutely. As I mentioned before, I am not an avid cook or I don't like to cook or bake. But when I'm stressed, that's the talent that comes out. I start cooking, and my family knows something's going on.
Maybe I should get more stressed and start cooking myself.
So that's the only thing I can think of that people wouldn't think of having me do.
Okay, but what would you rather have, more time or more money?
More time, I think.
More time.
With more money.
With more money, a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything out there that you're afraid of?
It's just running out of time, I think. As you start to go into your years, mid-years, and so on. I just turned 50, so it's you start to think of things differently. So I think you start thinking of not having enough time on the bucket list you have and stuff. So that's what I feel for. And then another thing is how the systems and life can change, how quickly. So especially in the last year when we've been going through COVID, kind of things have changed in how you start reflecting on stuff. So fear of having things turned around so quickly that you wouldn't know what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah. So you just told us and the viewers that you're 50.
Yes.
You look fabulous, by the way. If you had the chance, would you go back and be younger? Would you choose to be younger?
I think with the wisdom I have and the experience I have now, and then go back, definitely. Yes.
Take all that wisdom and experience with you.
Yes, that I think would be the ideal wish.
Absolutely.
If a genie comes out of a little lamp and asks me, that would be one of them. Go back in time and do some things differently, maybe.
Yeah, I think we all would like to do that, go back and change some things in our lifetime. If you could marry a Bollywood actor,
oh my,
who would be your choice?
I don't watch too many Bollywood movies, but I think it would be Hrithik Roshan.
Oh, Hrithik Roshan.
Yes.
He's a popular one.
Yes.
So Hrithik Roshan. And why would you choose him?
I don't know, based on looks, to be very honest and shallow.
Who cares about his personality?
I don't know too much about him otherwise.
Based on his looks. Based on his looks. If you were given the chance to marry or be single in your lifetime, what would you choose?
That's a very trick question. I would rather be, I think married.
Yeah.
Because I think we as humans, or personally, I kind of aspire for companionship. And somebody to sound things off of, and somebody you have that at that intimate level.
Yeah,
so I think, yeah, married. But maybe not as blindly as I was the first time.
Do it again a little bit differently.
Yes.
Maybe, this time around. Ruby, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing everything about your personal stuff, your work life with our viewers, and your inspiration to a lot of women.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun, and it's been great to talk a little bit about myself, and hopefully I can inspire some other women. Like, we all go through struggles and things and different phases of life. So and it's great always to chat with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
और हमारे viewers के लिए thank you so much for all your love and support. अगर आप हमारे shows पे आने चाहते हैं और अपने life experiences share करने चाहते हैं तो please हमें inbox कीजिए या message कीजिए. For more Haniwalia shows, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. Until next time, see you soon.